Hey everyone, Nuke here once again. Nice to see everyone. Just want to get into logistics today and why it's important and why after the anxiety of approaching a woman, why it's the second hardest, in my opinion, thing to learn and understand, and why it seems so daunting, right? But also, we're here to talk strategies and ways to get your logistics to work for you and put everything in your favor, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to win, and the girl you're on a date with wants you to win too, right? So let's get started. All right. So, what is the definition of logistics, right? We tend to hear it a lot in maybe complex business operations or military operations. It's very important, right? So, the definition of logistics is the detailed coordination of a complex operation involving many people, facilities, or supplies, right? Um, I've always equated dating to like war or a complex business deal or something like that. So logistics definitely is a word that a lot of people that date or players or Don Juans, Casanovas, whatever you want to call them, use because a date is something that a man has to plan, right? But it's very much harder than than a lot of guys thought about in the beginning, right? So how does logistics play into dating, right? So when you ask a girl out on a date, usually you're the one that's going to be making the plans, right? 99% of the time, you make the plans, right? Obviously, I've had times where girls are like, "Hey, let's go do this. I want to go see this," right? And even then, you're going to have to set the time and set, all the other things in place in order for you to get to that place, right? So there's several things to consider when talking about logistics, right? So we'll try to cover as much as we can today. And I would say the biggest thing about logistics you have to understand is that it has to work in your favor, not her favor, right? She's stepping into your world, so she has to step into your system and your way of doing business, right? It usually doesn't work the other way around, right? So what we want to do is bring her as close as what area you're familiar in, whether it be your city or medium-sized town or whatever. That way you're playing on your turf, right? When um when you're playing sports or when you have a battle or whatever, or even a business deal, you're doing a business deal, you want to do it in a place where you're familiar with the surroundings, right? And that's a psychological thing. Humans feel more comfortable and confident doing battle or dating or having a business deal go down in places where they are familiar with, right? And it gives you a huge advantage. So first off, I will say always invite the girl as close to you as possible, right? Now, if you live in a big city, this could be park in front of my apartment complex. Let's cross the street and go to the bar, right? Um, yeah, so always she's stepping into your frame, stepping into your world, you know. You're inviting her to Disneyland. Disneyland is where you're at, right? You are the excitement. She's driving to you, not the other way around, right? Uh, So you want to find a place that's close to your apartment. Now, if you live in the middle of nowhere, then tough. You're probably going to have to find some place within driving distance, right? I always suggest as a young man, do what you can to live in a bigger city that's also affordable, but at the same time offers you a lot of choice in terms of women to date, right? It's one of the best things I ever did as a young man, and I think it benefit anyone, right? So distance from your apartment very important, right? So the closer you are to your apartment, the better. So if you can get this girl within walking distance of your apartment to go to a bar with you, it opens up a new possibility, right? So what happens? Let's say the date goes well. Um, she's giving you do you live around here eyes or something? You can just simply say, give her your plausible deniability. Hey, you want to go come to my apartment? I will play guitar for you, or you want to see my dog, or want to walk my dog real quick, or whatever you got to say, right? It's going to be much easier for her to come back to your place knowing that it's within, she doesn't have to move her car. Um, you seem very familiar and comfortable with the area, so she's going to feel safe. and also it's a huge show of status. And if you live in a nicer area and you're closer to where the fun is at, right? She's gonna see you as like, oh, this is where the guy is, where all the fun is at. That's just like, he's a fun guy, so he lives where in the fun area, right? So it's very important that you consider, going forward, find several locations and bars, coffee shops, or whatever, that are very close to your apartment, where you know the staff well. And before going to these, before using these places for a date, don't just blindly go to this place, right? Kind of go out and vet that place first. Like, look at the staff. Is it super trashy? Is it super bougie? Is it are the bartenders really cool? Tip well before you go to these bars. It helps a lot to um tip well and become kind of friendly with the staff and maybe well known, because when you bring a girl in, they'll cooperate, knowing that, okay, this guy's cool, he tips well, he's a local, he's just a cool guy, and I want to see him win, right? And that has helped me um in the past, right? So vet your bars, vet your coffee shops, whatever venues you want to meet at. um and then when it's time to decide a place to go, you can go to these places, right? um so another thing is the time you decide to go to one of these places, right? So a lot of guys, we're busy. Usually most people have free time on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Um, but keep in mind these things when you, excuse me, when you go out on the weekend, right? Um, when you go out on the weekend, the bars are more packed. The bars and the coffee shops are more packed. The staff is more stressed. Drinks are going to take longer, right? On top of that, the parking situation is bad, might be bad, right? So she's going to be already kind of frustrated with parking. It could be difficult. You might have to get involved and find her parking. You may have to pay more, or she may have to pay. She's already paid parking, so she's already like, you don't have to pay for parking. So weekends are tough, right? And then it's just there's so many people around. It's more chaotic. It's loud. And here's a big one: when during the weekends, bars and coffee shops are louder, more packed, less seating. So you're going maybe you have to wait, and then like that'll a girl will be like, man, like I drove all the way out here just to wait 30 minutes for a chair. They'll be cool with it. They'll be like, oh, it's fine, but deep down, subconsciously be like, oh, um, and then there's the problem that it's loud. So you're trying to have a conversation with this girl, and you can't. You keep raising your voice, and that's going to change your intonation, and it's going to just make it harder to connect with this person, right? So weekends do not recommend for going out. I know that during the week we have to wake up early to go to work, but sometimes you just have to bite a bullet, right? You just have to take it. The weekends are very tough to go out. It's very packed. It's very loud. There's a lot of chaos everywhere. You're not gonna get drinks on time. There's the little intimacy you'll get um from going to these places when it's quieter and the staff is more relaxed is gone, right? So the best days for choosing a date, or choosing a day to go take someone on a date, is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday you're already kind of pushing, as Thursday is a lot of people's Friday. And a lot Thursday people like to go out too, right? But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you set up the date. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is for girls you already know, that are in your frame, that that no matter what happens, you're still taking them back to your apartment. You're just having fun, or for girlfriends, for serious girls, right? But like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are for the prospects, right? So um, day of the week, very important, right? Time. So on the weekends, like again, it's not ideal, but let's say you have to do it on the weekends, right? If you're gonna do something on the weekends, try to do it as early as possible, right? So don't set up a date on the weekend at 9 p.m., right? Because 9 p.m. things are getting heated, the bars are getting packed, people are starting to pour in. You know, do things if you can. 5 p.m., 6 p.m., it's the weekend, right? They probably don't work. 5 p.m. is the bars are probably kind of full, depending on what type of bar or coffee shop it is. It's not going to be that bad, right? During the week though, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, um those days, yeah, I mean, you can show up late. Obviously there's work, and other thing. But the timing on is important on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because there's traffic from her job, right? So imagine her wanting to meet you, right? And she has to drive home. Let's say she gets off at 4, drive home 30 minutes in traffic. She's already stressed from work. She's gonna get dressed, get ready. She probably didn't even eat, whatever, because you said you wanted to meet her at 5, right? So during the week, try to give her a time where the traffic dies down. She has time to come home, eat, relax, kind of unwind. Like 8 p.m. would be great. 8:30. It's the bars will not be full on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, right? So you give her that plenty of time between the time she gets off work and um the time to meet up, and she'll feel more relaxed, right? And also always tell her like, hey, there's no rush, like I don't need you to be here exactly at 8, right? And I know a lot of guys will say, well, like, no, she has to show up on time and all this stuff. Here's the thing. By her coming to you, you've already solved the problem of if she flakes, because if she flakes, you're steps away from your apartment or your house, right? There is almost no investment. If she shows up 15 minutes late, it's okay, because she'll probably text you, hey, I'm 10 minutes away, and then you'll put on a shirt. You'll probably be showered already, put on a shirt, and you head out. And if she, you'll know if she flakes. And that's why it's so important to choose a place near you, because it solves that flaking problem. A lot of girls do flake. Um, but if they do, um, flake, what you haven't lost anything. Obviously, you probably sectioned off your afternoon, your night to meet up with them, right? But it's not like you drove 30 minutes, 25 minutes, got dressed, got ready, put everything on, put your dog in the kennel, turn off all the lights. No, you can simply sit in your house and wait till she says, hey, I'm parking, or hey, I'm 10 minutes away, to get up and be like, okay, she's actually going to show up. So that's why it's so important to choose a place near you, and also day of the week, right? Um, so yeah, we covered time of the date. So now that we've gotten time and the distance from your apartment figured out, let's talk about other things that you don't really account for, but you should, right? Like I mentioned before, parking, right? So make sure she has a place to park. If you live in a packed city, here's a little trick that I do, right? I live in a kind of like area where there's parking on the street, but it's kind of hard to come by, right? So what I do is during the day, if I get back home early, or I just circle, or I get back from the gym that day, I will circle around and park my car in one of those spots. And then when she shows up, I tell her, hey, I'm waiting outside. I saved the spot for you, right? Because a lot of people have, especially in bigger cities, they have a lot of anxiety over finding parking in a especially in a more dense area, like like my city, like Dallas. So what you do is, like, you scope a parking out a couple hours earlier, like maybe you just got back from the gym, or you're just out and about walking your dog, and you see open parking spot, park your car there. When she shows up, you just slide your car out and be like, I'm gonna circle around and get, and your own, your apartment should have their own parking. You park in your apartment, she has her parking spot right in front of your apartment. See? And then you guys head out and walk to wherever, right? You don't have to tell her you live there exactly, right? That's probably, unless she asks, I don't really say. But now for logistics, you can bring her back to your apartment. She's like, "Oh, my car. Wait, but what about my car?" She's like, "Your car's right here. It's safe. Like it's okay." So you're solving all these problems by just following this strict logistics plan, right? So parking is very important. I know, like if a girl likes to see you, she's probably not even think about that. But why not make it less stressful and let you be the focus, not like what other things. Take as much off her um, as you can, and make sure that, tell her the only thing you should worry about is looking good and showing up, and that's it, right? So parking is very important. Keep that in mind. Obviously, not all cities are the same. Maybe in your city the parking is great, or maybe in your town parking is not an issue, right? But if you're living in a big metro area, especially in a downtown area, parking will be an issue. So make sure you get that taken care of before uh, moving forward. All right. So I mentioned this before. The type of music and just the vibe of a bar can kill it. You know, um, There's bars or clubs or whatever that play the music really, really, really loud, and you can't talk to somebody. So keep that into account. Um, there's there's bars where, like, if they know you to tip well, they'll bring you extra shots. They'll give you extra shots and drinks, and then the girl will feel like, oh, this guy knows people. This guy's popular. The bartenders like him. Um, uh, so yeah, keep that into account. Like, choose your bar wisely, but also, put in a little work and effort into finding these bars before, and it'll pay in the end, right? Some bars will bring you your drinks in a nice little treasure chest or a nice little get up, and then the girl will be like, wow, like, this is, she'll feel happy because she's there for entertainment. She's there. You're her entertainment for the night, right? So just like you're throwing a show or a venue, you want your guests and your fans to have the most comfortable experience coming in, and focus on the show, not all the logistics, right? You want to have ample parking. You want make sure that the volume of your music is right, and all these things, right? Same concept. So yeah, noise, very important to think about. Weather. So here's another thing, like weather. Like, check the weather. If you're going out that day, check the weather. Make sure it's if it's raining or if it's going to be very, very cold. Sometimes it's just the weather's so bad that you just have to cancel. Like, it's pouring rain, everything's coming down. Sometimes you just have to be like, hey, like roads are closing and streets are flooding. Like, let's cancel. And then it just sucks. Like, obviously, some girls will be like, no, 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 I still want to meet you, and then that's, proceed from there. But sometimes the weather will come into account, so keep an eye on the weather too, especially if you live in like a city like mine where the weather's kind of erratic sometimes. um, so yeah, weather will have a say in the your date night, right? um, and if you're going to dress for the weather, make sure she dresses for the weather too. Like, realize that women don't really think about dates and logistics at all. They just show up, right? So make sure tell her, hey, it's gonna be kind of cold. Might want to pack an extra jacket or bring an extra jacket and all that stuff. Because it sucks when a girl's like constantly complaining she's cold and she's shivering, and you have a cold drink in her hand. It's just like, take a little bit of, like, initiative and tell her, hey, make sure you dress for the weather. Bring an umbrella if it rains and all that stuff. Pro tip: a lot of bars have happy hour when it rains, so look into that too, right? So you got weather. What else? Well, weather ties in how you dress, um, and all that. I would say that another thing for logistics here. Okay, so your second bar, right? So another a powerful tool in any successful dating, um, is to have a second place lined up for, because psychologically speaking, if you move a girl from one place to another, it will feel like she's on a second date. So it builds that, like, it's like a fast forward, it's like a time warp for her, right? So let's say I take her to a bar that's semi loud but semi popping. There's like a lot of cool people there. We're getting like we got a free shot. She thinks I'm cool, but I tell her like, hey, you want to go next door? It's a little quieter. Let's and she Most of the time I get a yes, and they're like, yeah, yeah, okay. So we do that, and you know usually a second place is quieter or it's like fresh, and we order another drink. um so make sure that your second bar isn't too far from your first bar, your second coffee shop or whatever. Second place is not too far from the first, right? Because she may have heels on. You don't want to go walking to the heels. It may be raining. It may be really cold. It may be really hot. Make sure that these two are maybe no more than 3 blocks. You know. Also, you're probably gonna be walking in the dark, and she may feel kind of, like, "Oh, I don't know this guy, and we're walking in the dark, right? So that comes into account, right? So make sure your second venue is as close as possible, right? Um, and then we also have to talk about time. So how long should you be on a date, right? I think anything over 3 hours is excessive. You know, try to keep it. I'd say try to keep it under two. Keep the drinks flowing and don't push drinks down her throat. Like, don't be like, hey, next drink, next drink. I think after the second drink, tell her, "Hey, would you like another one, or are you good?" And that's when you start doubting her, to let her know, like, "Hey," because most girls by the second drink is when they're tipsy, and if girls keep drinking, a lot of girls are more fun when they drink, but a lot of girls, act more silly, start, getting emotional and thinking about their ex, or they just start acting rude, or some inner bad part of them comes out, right? Um, so you want to monitor her drinking and make sure that, like, after the second drink, start asking her, like, "Would you like another drink? Or are you good?" Um, and for yourself too, like, you don't if the date's going good, like, drinking more isn't going to add to the date, right? So if you still find yourself a little, like, not loosened up and not not feeling it, um maybe another drink will help. But, like, if things are going well and the conversation is flowing, you've only had one drink, and things are looking like she's gonna come back to your place, then you can stop there. You save money and all that stuff. um and then you go from there. um so yeah, logistics is very, very important. I know this seems like a very daunting task. And why does it seem daunting? It's because a lot of people have never planned this much. I was in the military and I had to plan maintenance and certain evolutions and classes and trainings and all that stuff, right? So it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, right? But here's the thing: once you get this system right down pat, this is a system. It's not going to only be for one girl. This is going to be your system in which girls step in and you run them through the system, and eventually you get back to your place, right? And I know at first it seems like, oh man, like, so many things to worry about, right? I know, but once you have the system in place, it runs itself. It's like an algorithm. You take a long time building code or an algorithm. It sucks because you have to, like, perfect it, and it has all these issues and kinks that you got to work out. But once it's running and once it's solid, that it will run whatever you put into it, right? So you've had a beautiful 8 out of 10 girl that you're like, "Holy crap, I hope this works." Just run her through that system and it works, right? And then maybe you have a 5 out of 10 girl that she's awesome, but you don't feel as you feel like, "Oh, she's just 5 out of 10 girl, she's not that hot." Um, it will work too. Like, both of these systems will work. Sorry, one both of these girls will step into your system and it will work, right? You just have to perfect it at first. Get put all in the front work, right? Because a lot of, like, dating and getting girls is putting in the front work. Everything that happens after is just a consequence, right? Girls are a lagging factor of success. So if you want success, put yourself in a position to win, right? If you go to a loud bar on a Friday at 9 p.m., it's harder to win than when you go on a Tuesday at 9 p.m. and there's plenty of parking, and she just parked right in front of your apartment. You step next door, and yes, she has work in the morning, right? But it's still, you it's still much better than on a weekend where you can't even get a word in because they're blasting music, right? So yes, logistics is very important, and you have to keep in mind that everything has to be in place. Now, is logistics supposed to be a solid? Um, is logistics supposed to be super solid? Like, a girl cannot step out of it, or you have to follow it through to its termination? No. And I have this issue sometimes where, like, it's works for me so well sometimes that when a girl is trying to step out of this system, I don't see it, and I see it like, no, no, no. I try to push her back in, right? So I've had women that, like, by the second drink are already, like, looking around, asking me where I live, which is basically a green flag to say, hey, let's go back to your place, right? Um, instead of me saying, "Okay, I've won, like, I've got, she's comfortable, she wants to go back to my place." Sometimes I'll just, no, 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 let's go to a second bar, right? And spend more money and spend more time. She's kind of, like, already getting tired. She wants to go back to my place. So when notice when you've gained her enough and she's comfortable coming back to your place, or notice when she's not really into the date, or notice when she feels uncomfortable, doesn't want to be there, or just pay attention to these things. If you don't really see anything that pops out of you, continue running the system, your logistics. But at the end of the day, like, don't if a girl's giving you, like, the "hey, take me home" vibes, like, for example, here's an example. Like, I'll mention my dog, like, "Hey, yeah, here's my cute," and I show pictures of my dog, and like, maybe you want to meet him sometime. and she gets really excited, like, yes, yes, I want to meet him. And that means, hey, she's probably like, hey, I want to go to your apartment. I want to see your dog, but also I want you to see if you want to make a move on me. Right. And I do. So just, I know it seems very complicated, but remember, this is more of an art than it is a science, right? So you have to practice it a lot and you have to go out there a lot. And then eventually, it'll click. But just make sure that don't get stuck in your system. If a girl's ready to go back to your apartment, drop everything and just go. Just say, pay the check. Be like, yeah, let's do it. Hold her hand, take her home, and then in the elevator, kiss her, and then whatever you got to do and go on from there, right? Um, Other than that, keep your system to the end. Um, and then it might not work, like not you might have done everything right and you told the girl, hey, you want to go back to my place at the end of everything perfect. She says no. um I'll offer her to walk back to your car, to her car. If she says no then, or she's fine, she's probably not into you, or she's just not ready for you to kiss her, right? Now you could take that any way you want. I mean, I'm not going to be there to coach you, right? But usually for me, if I'm on a date and I run my system and she doesn't want to come back to my place, that's fine, whatever. um but I offer, hey, you want me to walk you back to your car, and she's like iffy about it, or she says no, then I realize, okay, there really isn't, she wants no other opportunities. She wants to leave, like she's done, right? So I just, okay, have a good night, thanks, and I just walk away. A lot of times I walk her back to her car. Here's another little neat trick, right? A lot of times I'll walk her back to her car, and that's where I make my move, right? I make my move there. We kiss. Um, And then she says, and then I ask, a lot of times they offer, hey, do you need a ride back to your place? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take a ride. And then she'll give me a ride back to my place. And then I ask her, hey, you want to come up? Because I already built that kino and that like connection. I already kissed her. She's starting to feel comfortable. That attraction surge. And, it's like she's right there. Like there's my apartment. She may be aroused. I smell good. She's 2 or 3 drinks in her. She has to make a split decision there, right? Not a forced decision, not like I'm pushing her, not, but like I put her in a position where she would want to spend more time with me, right? Um, Now if I go to her car and she's like, I kiss her and you know, hey, can you bring me to my apartment? And then I drop her off and I ask her, "Hey, you wanna come home?" She says no, then okay, that's not terrible, right? It's not the end of the world, but, like, she had a little bit of last minute resistance, right? But these are just little tips and tricks. It's something that I do, it works pretty well, and sometimes, like, you can be kissing a girl, it could be the most passionate kiss, but at the end of the day, it's gonna like she's still gonna insist, no, I have work tomorrow. I have to leave. I have to leave. Right? I say after the third time or second time asking, just let it go, say thank you, and then just walk home. Right? Um, yeah, and yeah, it gets a little complicated, right? I know it seems like it's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, you have to you have to put in this front work. You have to put a little thought into it. Girls aren't just gonna fall into your lap. You have to put a little thought, right? Because we're all competing, right? And one of the best ways to compete outside of like your things that like your physique and your game and other and things you can't change, like your height and how much money you make, whatever, right? You're also competing for amount of how much you care and how much work you put into this, right? Because that's the biggest thing I noticed. Like I put in a lot of work to get these logistics in place. I moved to a big city, and I lived in a very cool, fun area, where there's bars all around. Um, I made sure what the visitor parking situation was in my building. I made sure what bars were good to go to, what not good to go to. I always check the weather when I go out, just like everyone does. But for a date, I check the weather. I made friends with all the staff, and I tip well every time I go. I vetted all these places, and then now that I know all this data, the girl stepping onto my turf, and things usually go in my favor, right? So make sure you guys put in the work, do a little thought about this. If you guys have any tips or questions about logistics, comment below, and I'll answer them. And let me know if you guys want me to talk about any topic specifically. I'm full of information, so Anyways, like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for you guys' support. My channel is almost around almost 200. I would appreciate reaching 200 before the end of March, but I'll take what I can get. So thank you very much, and you guys have a good night. Rolling from the bitch.